Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today we're going to be talking about, and there goes my reading glasses. That's just lovely. Um, that's maybe that's a sign I should not be recording at this time of night. But if you're new here, hit that like button and that bell for notifications. Also, please subscribe. Help a girl out. But today on Down the Rabbit Hole, we are going to be discussing the children of Queen Victoria. I just got done talking about the children of Christian the Ninth. And I have actually talked about Queen Victoria. I want to say it was like earlier on in the podcast. So you can go back and find that episode. I'm not exactly sure what episode it is. But today, but I love European royalty. I love talking about it. I love learning about the history behind it and everything else. So Queen Victoria had 9 children, and you're probably wondering, but don't you do these segments in 8? Yes. Didn't I just do 4? Well, the last princess will be on the start of the next series. Next segment said 12. It is currently the holiday season, so I'm trying to get as much as I can done. And we all know that's a stressful time in general, right? Um, but yeah. Isn't my braid cute, by the way? I just got out of the shower, so. But with that being said, why don't I get started with today's episode, okay? Victoria, Princess Royal, who she was the eldest child of Queen Victoria of the UK, and Prince Albert, Prince Consort, who was born Victoria Adelaide Mary Louisa on November 21st, 1840, at Buckingham Palace. Her mom had succeeded to the throne at the age of 18 in 1837, and although she is perhaps the most famous monarch in British history, she was a highly emotional woman who was short, dumpy, plain, and had a typical Hanoverian features of her father's family, including her grandfather George III's receding chin. Now, she married her maternal first cousin, um, the handsome intelligence Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg Gotha, on February 10th, 1840, when they were both 20 years old. Their marriage was an extremely and for happy one, for both loved each other immensely and had total of 9 children. Even though Victoria had an adverse opinion on motherhood, the Princess Royal, known to her family as Vicky, was gifted and lively child who inherited her father's intellect. Now she thrived in the rigorous educational program her parents put forth, and she grew very attached to both her parents. They had a huge influence on her, and she even copied her mom's regal and pleasant character, and as well as adopting her father's liberal beliefs. She eventually matured into a progressive thinking and dignified young woman with a candid personality. And Victoria's younger siblings were Edward VII, Princess Alice, Prince Alfred, um, Princess Helena, Princess Louise, Prince Arthur, Prince Leopold, and Princess Beatrice. But yes. So, before long, her parents began searching for her to have a suitable match. They wanted a German spouse that followed the Protestant religion, and they eventually settled in Prussia, a promising kingdom emerging what from who just so happened to be an old ally of Britain. And Vicky's family immediately thought of Prince Frederick Wilhelm of Prussia, the son of King Wilhelm I of Augustus Saxe, Weimar, and Eisenach. And Vicky and the prince were already well acquainted. In 1851, um, sorry about that. I lost my place. Oh yeah. In 1851, the prince and his family had eventually been invited to England by Queen Victoria, and during which Vicky accompanied the Prussian royal family as an escort to Frederick's younger sister Louise. Although she was just 10 years old at the time, the young Princess Royal had a lasting impression on the 20-year-old prince, who was taken by her personality and intellect. Frederick was invited back to England 4 years later, where he and Vicky agreed to marry one another, even though they were aware their union might not be warmly accepted by either of their kingdoms. Now, due to her young age, their engagement was not announced till 3 years later, and the couple will wed January 25th, 1858, at the Chapel Royal at St. James's Palace. When Vicky was 17, Frederick was 27. Now, though the marriage was arranged for principality and dynastic reasons, it was also a love match which would prove to be one of the most romantic royal marriages in centuries. I still think it's weird given the age gap though. I really do. But Vicky's parents hoped that their daughter's marriage to the future King of Prussia would create ties between the two countries, as well as serving as a possibly unifying Germany as a liberal nation. As Frederick and Vicky were in love with each other, they both treated each other with respect and viewed the others as equal. Um, and which was an uncommon belief for any man to hold about his wife at the time. Now, Vicky had a difficult time adapting to her new home, and she was not fond of Prussia and found it inferior to Britain in every way. Even though both Vicky and her husband had liberal and Anglophile ideas, their efforts to change Prussia collided and failed against the authoritarian ideas that of the powerful minister Otto von Bismarck. Like her mother, Vicky hated childbirth, but her d- her distaste, she had 8 children with Frederick, 6 of who survived to adulthood, four daughters and 2 sons. Um, there is so here their children are Wilhelm II, Charlotte, Duchess of Saxe, and Manningham, Prince Henry of Prussia, Prince Sigismund of Prussia, Princess Victoria of Prussia, Princess Valdemar of Prussia, Sophia, Queen of Hellenes, who would marry Constantine I, King of Hellenes, Margaret, Landgraven of Hesse Castle, and Victoria, Crown Princess of Prussia. So, okay, look, now, Victoria would suffer a harrowing childbirth with her eldest, the future Emperor Wilhelm II of Germany, leaving him in his withered left arms with Erb's palsy. Wilhelm, humiliated by his disability, attempted to conceal his arm all his life, and most historians agree that he was affected by the emotional development negatively. Vicky and Frederick attempted to teach their son about the promising benefits of democracy, but he rejected their beliefs and chose to accept his German tutor's notions of autocratic nations. Unfortunately, this isolated his parents from him, and um, he never became close to him. Now, Vicky was a rather strict and direct mom, just like her own mom was, but her parenting style alienated her from her children, especially her oldest son and daughter. Now, during the three wars of German unification throughout the 1860s and 70s, Vicky and her husband strongly supported the Prussian cause, with that of the North German Confederation. In the early 1871, the triumphant North German Confederation created a unified German empire, with King Wilhelm I of Prussia, Frederick's father, as the hereditary German emperor. Thus, Vicky and her husband became the German crown's prince and princess. Now, Emperor Wilhelm, or the Kaiser, would Wilhelm I would die on March 9, 1888, and Frederick ascended to the throne as Emperor Frederick III. Although he was 56 at the time of his crowning, he was gravely ill with cancer of the larynx and was not expected to live much longer. Vicky, who was now 46, was named German Empress, Consort, and Queen Consort of Prussia, but was more commonly known as Empress Frederick, and she remained devotedly by her husband throughout his short reign, supporting her and caring for him as he weakened with each passing month. Finally, after just 99 days on the throne, he died June 15th, and Prince Wilhelm then took the throne as Emperor Wilhelm II, but his succession was shocking to his mother as he took the power in what appeared to be a palace coup. The grieving Vicky was furious with her eldest son's actions and never forgave him for his conduct. So now she, so now that she was the Empress Dowager, she retired to the castle Frederiksdorf, a palace where she built a memory to her late husband near Kronberg, and where she was mourning and wore mourning clothing the rest of her life, just like her mom did after Albert's death. Now she maintained a constant correspondence with her English family, especially with her mom. And although she had a difficult relationship with her son and politically had opposing beliefs, they supported each other and attempted to guide each other throughout his reign. Now Vicky was committed to her liberal beliefs, even though in the face of her son was very angry to the opposition, she attempted to focus on the areas during her widowhood and his acts of learning. As a gifted artist herself, she became a patron of the arts and academics, and even created schools for higher education of girls and nurses trainings. During a visit to her mom at Balmoral, she was diagnosed with inoperable breast cancer. By the autumn of 1900, the cancer had spread to her spine. She suffered greatly, and the last few months of her life was too ill to go to England to attend her mom's funeral in January 1901. After clawing through months of pains, the former Empress of Germany died August 5th, 1901, at the age of 60, at her home in Castle Frederiksdorf. Now, she was buried in the royal mausoleum next to her beloved husband. Wilhelm II would become the last German emperor and king of Prussia. Following Germany's disastrous loss in World War I, Germany was blamed for starting the war. The pretentious and impulsive Wilhelm, who was very inept at leading his country during wartime, forced to abdicate in 1918 and fled in exile to the Netherlands, where he remained the rest of his life. Victoria's third child and second son, Prince Henry, married his first cousin, Princess Irina Hesse in Bahrain, who was a carrier of hemophilia. They had three sons together, two of who had the disease. And one of Victoria's younger daughters, Princess Sophia, married King Constantine I and had six children. All three of their sons, George II, Alexander I, and Paul I, would become King of Greece. Um, Paul I's children would be the last king of Greece, and Queen Sophia of Spain, Sophia's eldest daughter, Princess Helen, would marry King Carol II of Romania and become the mother of the last king of Romania, Michael I. That is it for this episode. You can join me next time as we talk about the second child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, Edward VII, the King of the UK. I hope y'all have a happy Thanksgiving and a great day.